Broadcasting from the abandoned food court at the White Flint Mall. It's the Nice Guys on Business podcast. Go from where you are now to where you could be. Get expert tips to grow your business, to be more productive and more efficient, whether you're trying to build influence, grow your community, or make it rain. Best-selling author of Nice Guys Finish First, Doug Sandler, can lead the way. The Nice Guys on Business is produced by Turnkey Podcast Productions. Now, here's your host, Doug Sandler.
All right, Nice Guy community. We are fortunate today to have our guest, Ted Theodoropoulos. He is on the podcast today on Nice Guys. So if you're listening to this on Turnkey or if you're listening to this on Ford Mustang, you can tune out for just the next few moments because Nice Guy community, this one is for you. Ted is he's a CEO, the CEO of Infodash, and a serial entrepreneur dating all the way back to the 1990s when he and I were both kids. His company, Infodash, is proof positive that old school vision can meet new world technology and win big. Excited to chat. Ted, welcome back to the Nice Guys on Business podcast.
Thanks for having me, Doug.
So, a serial entrepreneur. I know that, I looked through, that's my term for you. You did not say you were self-proclaimed, because sometimes that sounds a little egotistical when somebody says, yeah, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've made billions of dollars. You didn't say that, but in me doing my research, I've discovered all of these other organizations that you either have been a part of, a founding partner of, or stuff that wouldn't normally be a guy that went to school you went to school in the 90s, right?
Yep. College in 1990 started. Yep.
So a guy that goes to school in the 90s doesn't necessarily come across necessarily as the guy that's like, hey, I'm into AI and into technology and all of that. What even got you started with your wheels or have you always been disassembling, the Mac 512K enhanced version of it when you were first growing up? Like, what got you into technology?
I started really early. I was in fifth grade and they brought an Apple II into my elementary school. And I wasn't really the best student like most entrepreneurs and didn't love school, but my mom took note. I was up early every day asking her to take me to school early, and I didn't tell her why. And she was real scratching her head. And one day she asked, she was like, what are you doing? Like, why are you going to school early? And I was like, Mom, they have a computer there and they gave us 45 minutes in the morning to just play around on it. So I did that for, I don't know, probably fifth and sixth grade. And I got a TI 99 4A and probably sort of in 19, with the extended basic cartridge, and used to record my programs onto an audio cassette tape. So that would have been like 83. And I just gravitated towards tech early, and it took my interest in tech took a brief hiatus in high school because that's when you're trying to date girls, and like they didn't really like the computer nerds, right? So I had to I disassociated myself during high school, but then got back into it in college.
I can remember I went to college. I'm a little older than you. I went to college from 82 to 86, and in 85 maybe 86, I bought the Macintosh 512K KB, and it the upgrade was the 2 megabyte version up, and it was this huge big brick that you put under the computer to add the technology, the extra memory. But I can remember like going through computer science class and Fortran and COBOL and having to make these with data cards and having to make the cards so that when it spit out on the other side, it made like a butterfly out of the paper or something. All of those crazy things. I can't even relate to how that translated to the next step in technology. So I kind of I loved it, but I had no idea how it would actually, be a part of my life. And while I loved it, I couldn't figure out how computer science equates to making a living when I was in college. You obviously stuck with it. I did not. You became really, big in the tech world, and I became really big in the, resume writing world. I think that's what I ended up doing in my first couple of jobs out of college. What made you stay in that game after you kind of said, hey, I can be in computers and get girls all at the same time? What made you come back to it?
So it was business. My mom was in the restaurant business and was getting bombarded with bounce checks. So this would have been in the early 90s, like 1991, 1992. And I was a junior at UNC Chapel Hill, and she gave me the part-time job of collecting these checks. And in North Carolina, it's actually a misdemeanor. It's a criminal offense to write a bad check. So I had quite a bit of leverage. I was batting about a 95% collection rate, and started making some money.
Doesn't hurt that you have a really deep, throaty voice, and you could
Yeah.
probably be pretty intimidating if you need to be.
Well, I'm 6'5", 270 now, but I was 6'5", but I was barely over 200 then.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
was, but I needed to keep track of all of the remittances and the placements. So I started off with just collecting for my mom. She let me keep the $20 service fee, and I gave her the face amount of the check. I started making like $500-600 a week part-time in 1992. Wow. So I was like, wow, if I can scale this out. So I actually quit school for a year and went out. I got licensed and bonded by the state of North Carolina. They required a $5,000 surety bond, and I didn't have that kind of money, and nobody would underwrite that. So yeah. I had a trust fund baby girlfriend at the time, and she gave me the $5,000 to put up to post as bond, essentially. And I just started going and knocking on doors, and got a real big restaurant clientele because they were too busy to deal with the problem. And then it just kind of expanded from there. But I couldn't afford, it was a shoestring budget. And so I couldn't afford formal kind of ERP software. So I had to build my own, picked up a copy of Microsoft Access 2.0 and a book and just figured it out. That's how I got back into it and kind of stuck with it from there. Was primarily business.
That's amazing. And I love the idea that you bootstrapped that company. Now, have you had investors in any of the companies that you worked with, or have you bootstrapped everything all along the way?
So this particular company is the first time we've ever been venture backed. So I have had scenarios where partners put in seed capital, but we've never had external capital until Infodash. And we just took that on recently. And we were really equipped to continue to be bootstrapped. We really didn't need the capital, but the fund who we partnered with is solely focused on legal tech, which is where we play.
Geez. So they fed you, they're feeding you at the same time that they're feeding you.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's less about capital, more about just relationships and advisory. It's been we're still really new into it, but these guys have been great to work with, and we're super excited about it.
Do you mind if I don't want to ask you too many, corporate secrets or anything like that, but I'd love to pick your brain just for a second. As a guy that's bootstrapped my entire career, every company that I've ever owned, I've bootstrapped, we built it, and we've never sold anything. I either dissolved it over time or saw the writing on the wall. The technology was going to completely put it in the crapper and moved on to the next thing. And what I have found through Turnkey is that we have this totally scalable business. But we've thought about, again, same as you, we don't need the money, but man, would it be great to have a relationship with an organization that feeds the same micro niche, and we'll talk about that as well with your about how Infodash works with a specific industry. But tell me about how that relationship works, how you court that relationship in the beginning phases. Do they come to you? Do you go to them? So many questions about that, Ted.
Yeah. So I met the managing director. I had read about the fund. It's a fairly new fund. It's about 4 years old. And they are the only fund that's focused exclusively on the legal technology space. So I knew that they existed a couple of years ago and decided I wanted to build a relationship with them. So I bought a ticket. They have a conference. And I went to the conference and shook some hands and met the managing director. Him and I hit it off. We're roughly the same age. He might have a few years on me. And we just had a great rapport. And over time, this was, I don't know, a year and a half ago, I kept in touch. He asked how we were doing. We signed an NDA. I would send him our financial. We do a very comprehensive monthly financial reporting with about 10, 12 KPIs that are very SaaS investor focused, things like LTV to CAC ratio, SaaS magic number, all those things that SaaS companies track. And I started sending him these monthly updates, and he was really impressed, and eventually said, "Hey, you ever thought about taken any venture money? And I said, well, I don't really need it, but always open to the conversation.
That's the ideal person to have as a partner, is somebody that doesn't, it's not coming to you out of desperation, but more out of partnership. Because really that's what he is to you, right? A partner.
100%. Yeah. It's, the same thing goes true. And I learned this the hard way as an entrepreneur is, go establish a line of credit and before you need it, because when you do need it, your financials may not support the underwriting. And so, so he could tell that I was sending him my financial reports. He could tell that we were very liquid.
Right,
so he knew we didn't need the money, but he also could see the potential growth. And we've been making a lot of noise in the space, a lot through the podcast that you help us with. And that has translated into a lot of visibility in the industry, not just with the Legal Tech Fund, but we partner with real companies, hundreds, sometimes thousands of times our size. And the feedback here is, dude, we're here. We see you everywhere. From, these are big companies. LexisNexis is a partner.
Wow.
And, they're massive. And, they have been very complimentary. Like, you guys are doing a great job getting the word out. And so we have a great, it's a formal partnership. Like, we integrate with their products. But we also partner on, we just sponsored a cocktail hour together last week at a conference. We do webinars with them and other partners in the space. So, yeah, the podcast has really helped create a lot of visibility, and a lot of the bigger companies can't execute the same way. They've tried on the podcast front. Like, there are some big companies out there that put out some really crappy content, and I take it very seriously, and I do my homework ahead of time, just like you do. And we are putting out really quality stuff, and the market is recognizing that.
Well, that, partly, and I appreciate the kind words. Part of your success is your ability to be so flexible and agile, because you're not weighted down in upper management and committee and decision by committee. Is that part of success?
It totally is. And something else that's a big part of the success is I can be candid, right? I can put a stake in the ground and be critical of things. Like, I talk a lot about Microsoft Copilot, and right now I'm not a fan. I think it's overpriced. It's got a lot of limitations. I know that Microsoft will eventually get Copilot right, but for now, I'm advising firms to pause who are thinking about rolling this out enterprise wide. Microsoft doesn't do a whole lot for us, but if I were in a bigger company where there's a strong relationship there,
oh my God,
I couldn't be that candid. And
right.
So people they're like, I love how you speak your mind. It's a breath of fresh air. And we can do that because we're small. We've got like 30 employees, right? Like, as we get bigger and we have more of those types of tightly coupled relationships, we may have to not be as candid, but for now we can, and it's great.
Yeah, use it to your advantage for sure. Let's talk about just your how you've put the company together, the growth of your company, so that somebody that is in our listening community can really understand that this does not have to be a 10 or a 15 or a 20 year from zero to success. Can you share maybe some of the beginnings when you realized that you had your hands on something that was going to work, and then how long it took to get from there to what level of you would consider, hey, I know that we're in this for good now because we're doing this great work. So start anywhere that you want to, but I'm just curious, just about your journey here.
Yeah. So we started off very intentional in terms of, we recognized a gap in the marketplace in terms of content. So there's several legal tech podcasts out there, but there's nobody that focuses on this very narrow niche that we focus on, which is knowledge management and innovation professionals at law firms. So there are literally like 3,500 of these people in the entire country. So it's a very small number, but there are buyers and there are customers, and nobody was really producing content focused directly towards that audience. So we said, you know what? It is a small audience, but they're the people who are going to buy our product. And so let's really focus in. So that's what we've done. And I came to the table with an existing Rolodex that I could leverage to get the first couple of episodes going. And when I say couple, it's actually probably the first 20. So I tapped people that I knew and knew well and had good chemistry with to have conversations. So the first couple episodes were good because I knew the people. It was good energy. And over time, now it's a machine. It's like I find somebody who I see who's making interesting comments on LinkedIn, or writing interesting articles, or I see them at a conference speaking and saying interesting things. And it's a great mechanism for me to go up and introduce myself.
Sure.
And, and then we have, I would say probably 3/4 of our speakers are potential customers as well. And we don't bait and switch. Like, we don't invite them on the podcast so we can pitch them, but we establish a relationship with them, and then we'll see them at a conference, and then they'll come to a webinar, and then they'll read a post I made on LinkedIn and like it. And next thing you know, when they have a need, they call us.
Right. Well, what I love so much about what you're doing is, and I think you recognize this from the very beginning, and you just touched on something I think is real important for our community to understand, especially those in our community that are thinking about starting a podcast or have ever been interested in podcasting. It's not about the size of your audience. Ted, based upon his market, may never have more. I mean, if he got 100% of the people, he'd have 3,500 people listening to a show. In Joe Rogan's sense, that's a statistical rounding error. You know what I mean? So for guys like Ted, for people like me that are in the podcasting space, and my audience is a broader audience than Ted's, I may be lucky if I have a few thousand people listen to the show. Some people have an even tighter audience than Ted, and they may only have 200 people, but you can make a significant income from podcasting when you have even a small audience. So talk about the micro niche that you work within for a moment, and the importance of really fine-tuning your message to them rather than saying, well, I want to go after a bigger audience, so I'm going to have a wider message. Can you share just your thoughts about that?
Yeah. And so we stay, I go to about, this year I have attended 9 conferences. So I speak at many of them. Sometimes I'm a vendor and I'm just in the audience and I'm listening, and I take notes and I learn, and I share those learnings through various channels, including the podcast. And I can have debates. I can have an informed debate with other thought leaders in the space. And it allows me to demonstrate the expertise that I've been able to acquire on their problem domain, right? We talk about problems that they face frequently. So I become a trusted resource in the space, and that has led to additional speaking opportunities. In fact, one of the thought leaders in the space, I saw him last week in New York, and he's like, man, I'm seeing you everywhere in 2D. He was like, it's good to see you in 3D for once. And I was like, I'm just trying to keep up with you, because he is literally everywhere. So, it is a visibility builder. And then on the credibility side, especially when I was first starting out, I would get people on stage with people, both on the podcast and at a speaking panel. And wherever their credibility is, your credibility automatically rises to that level, whether it's justified or not. And in my case, it was not, with some of these heavy hitters, right?
Understood.
They had been neck deep in this business for 25, 30 years. And I've been doing it for a little while, but as a vendor. So yeah, it has really been impactful for our credibility and visibility in the marketplace.
That's great to hear. And I would be remiss if I didn't ask you a question about ChatGPT or artificial intelligence or anything there. How do you stay afloat in in tune to the constantly shifting technology space that you're in?
Yeah, I follow a lot of thought leaders. LinkedIn is a great resource. So there's several people in the AI front, Ali Miller, Ethan Malik. I follow these people, and they post content, articles. I subscribe to several newsletters on the topic, and it is literally every day. In fact, I think maybe yesterday or today, Claude. So there's 2 big players in the space. It's OpenAI and Anthropic, and that's ChatGPT and Claude. Claude released a new update where you can, with AI, control your desktop. And I saw a demo on LinkedIn. It was amazing, where the poster put into Claude, go to Amazon and find the least expensive earbuds and put them in my shopping cart. And Claude did it. Opened the browser, went in there, searched, sorted by price in descending or ascending order.
Right.
Picked the right ones and put them in the shopping cart. I know. Now it's amazing and scary at the same time. Like, okay,
totally.
It better not press the buy button, right? Like,
yeah. What's amazing about that is you think about the uses of that, even in a household where you're walking around the house saying, I need toilet paper and I need paper towels and I need bananas and I need all of these things. And it's adding it because somebody's listening in your house at all times anyway, between Siri and Alexa and everybody else. And it's adding it to your shopping cart. And then you just say, okay, I want all that stuff. Check out.
Yeah.
It's
amazing.
Cool.
So it's, I think LinkedIn is a great resource to follow the people who really do the hard work of going out there and digging all this stuff up. I just consume it by following them.
But you got to stay one step ahead of your clients, because I'm assuming that sometimes you'll have a client come to you and say, hey, have you seen this technology advancement yet? And can you bring that to us? Or you're going to them and saying, I'd like to, I'm assuming a lot of these are, can we beta this with you? Or can I try this with you? Because technology is constantly changing. Is that right?
Oh, it is. Yeah. And it's rare. It's not unheard of. There are definitely some like knowledge management professionals in the space who even stay further. Like, I'm on the cutting edge. There's a few that are on the bleeding edge. They're even further, experimenting with, offline AI models and agentic AI tools. And so they're even one step ahead of me. But I would say that most of my client base, I'm probably further ahead on the experimentation timeline. So I'm able to share some of those learnings with them.
I got it. Well, I so appreciate you sharing what you do and how you do it, and talking to some of our entrepreneurs that might be a little bit more savvy in the world of technology than I am. I'm curious, and I've never asked this question before. I don't even know why it popped into my head. So if I put you on the spot, I apologize, but you might know the answer just off the top of your head. What podcasts are you listening to? Like, do you have a regular podcast that you listen to that's, whether it's inside or outside your industry, doesn't matter to me?
Yeah, I have several. I really love the All In podcast. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it.
No.
Several, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Chamath. He was like one of the founding employees at Facebook. There's several big entrepreneurs. Yeah, it's called the All In podcast. It's a bit long-winded. The episodes are pretty long. I love Huberman on all the life hack stuff. Yep. He's amazing. And then for entrepreneurs, especially in the SaaS world, there's a podcast. I'm going to give a shout out to Sam Jacobs and the crew at Topline. Topline is the name of the podcast, and it's for revenue leaders in the technical space. And man, I get so much out of that podcast. It's every episode is I look forward to, because I always learn something. So those are my big ones that aren't legal tech focused, because that's pretty niche. Those are more general purpose.
I guess I gotta stop listening to true crime. I guess I gotta and history. I do listen to a couple of news shows, but I need to start working on the industry centered podcast or entrepreneur based podcast, because for me, I don't get my learning yet enough from. I get my news from podcasts. I don't get enough of my learning from podcasts, and I don't know why that would be the case, because we freaking produce so many of them. I should just use my clients' podcast and get information from them.
There you go.
Gosh,
good point.
Ted, thank you so much for sharing. For those in our listening community, Ted's website is getinfodash.com. His podcast, of course, we'll put a link in the show notes for that as well. It's the Legal Innovation Spotlight. We'll put the Spotify link in there, as well as his website. Ted, thanks for being on the show, and thanks for sharing today.
Thanks for having me, Doug.
Hey, Nice Guy community, never underestimate the power of nice. Again, special thanks to Ted Theodoropoulos. All of his information, including access to his website and his podcast, right there in the show notes. Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
For the Nice Guys on Business, I'm Steve O'Brien. You know, I've done opens and closes for these bozos for 400 plus episodes. I've moved, I've had plastic surgery, I keep renewing the restraining order, but nothing has worked. They keep on finding me.